To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and you're listening to a podcast that believes in dreams, that places trust in the magic of imagination, that is always the first star to the right, and where the light in the window is always on. Join as we discuss the views from Walt's apartment.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walt's Apartment Presents. So excited. We have another fun-filled episode this week. I'm enjoying doing these offshoots of the regular show. I have Sam with me this week. Sam, how are you?
I am good. I'm excited to be here. I haven't been.
We haven't done this for a while.
No, we haven't, and I'm excited.
Yeah, but yeah, we have an awesome guest this week. If you watch us, you know who he is for sure. So that's 100% because he's doing this right. I met him through Getaway Today. Met him. I've watched his stuff for years. Saw him. Met him. I think I met him last year with Getaway Today. Then actually this time in February, we got to hang out and go to Universal Studios together. Hung out with Dave from Fresh Baked. It was just great to have a couple of guys there together, actually just getting together and talking, because mostly, a lot of the stuff. But we have Traver, the So Cal Disneydad. Let me tell you a little bit about him first. 68,000 subscribers on YouTube. Over 700 videos and 17 million views on YouTube. So please join us in welcoming Traver, the So Cal Disneydad. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me to do this. It's awesome. I've been looking forward to it since you floated the idea to me.
Yeah, we talked about it in February.
Ago.
We talked about it in February. Then I was texting. I think I was messaging your wife on Instagram. So, and then she's like, "No, just email." And I'm like, "Okay, perfect." So we finally got it figured out. So glad to have you here. Your channel covers everything. I mean, you have you're like your bio says on there, you're a family that lives in the San Diego area. You go to Disneyland. I believe you were telling me when we talked, like once a week, at least about once a week to record content, and it's always something fresh. You do food. You're doing a lot of hotel tours right now. I've seen like you're like staying. Good for you. I watched your Grand Californian one here just recently, and then you were at Alani just this last month, I believe. I want to hear about Alani's for sure. So because I've never been there and I've heard it's amazing. But do us a favor, tell us who you are, tell us a little bit about you, and just and we'll go from there.
Well, my name is Traver, and as you said, my channel is So Cal Disneydad, and I guess just start back at the beginning, right? That's what Julie Andrews sings in Sound of Music. Start at the very beginning. I grew up in Pennsylvania and lived my first 18 years of my life there in Pennsylvania before going off to college in Florida. But my love for Disney started young. My mother took me to Walt Disney World for the very first time when I was 6 or 7 years old, and then we went back quite frequently. When I went off to college in Florida, being so close, I was in the Panhandle, so it was still a 6-hour drive, but it was closer than Pennsylvania. We would make trips down to Walt Disney World quite frequently. Through long series of events we won't get into, ended up in Southern California after college, and took my first Disneyland visit in 2012. My wife had grown up in Utah. And so, of course, California was a lot closer to her than Florida. So she'd only been to Walt Disney World once, but had been to Disneyland several times. So when we were out here visiting before we moved here, she took me to Disneyland for the very first time in 2012, right after Cars Land had opened. And so that was a pretty fun visit for us. And then we moved here officially in 2015, end of 2014, but it was pretty much 2015, and got annual passes almost immediately, and it became our thing to do to come to Disneyland, and it's certainly ramped up over the last few years of YouTube, because it hadn't been doing YouTube when we first moved here, of course. So we went far less frequently back then, but definitely a lot now.
Gotcha. Annual passes. I'm sure you're like everyone else. You enjoyed the previous annual pass system compared to this one.
I think the only thing that I'm particularly frustrated with, if frustration is the right term, is just the reservation system. And I think that's probably going to be the common thread. I mean, you used to just be able to go spontaneously. There's downsides to that, of course. It didn't happen often, but it did happen. Imagine somebody comes all the way and the gates are locked because it reached capacity. And I can see how that could be, a bummer for some people visiting. So the reservation system pretty much prevents that. But I think it's extremely limiting that we only have 6 reservations. I'm trying to plan as frequently as I go. And I'm not even, see,
Right.
I only go once a week. There are locals who live in Anaheim who want to go once a day or,
Hmm.
four times a week. They just want to go in the evening. Imagine being stuck to just 6 reservations and you've got 4 of them all in the current week. So,
Yeah.
it's definitely, that's probably the biggest frustration. Otherwise, um, I've never really been one to focus too much on all the other details of what the old pass used to be like, but the reservation system's the main frustration point.
I agree with you there. I just have the enchant key, so I only have 4. And if I usually when I go, I'm going, I'm going to go for 2 or 3 days. So like I'm using all of mine at one time. But I
Yeah.
don't go as much as like you guys go. I'm probably going to upgrade next time because 6 sounds cool and free parking doesn't sound too bad
Yeah.
either. So, but Sam, any questions to start off?
I I was gonna jump back into the content creation side and say, was there a specific moment for you where you decided you wanted to take this passion for Disney that you had and share it with an audience? Was there
Absolutely.
Uh,
something specific, or did it develop over time?
I'll again follow with the Julie Andrews advice.
Start
Start
from
from
the
the very
beginning.
beginning. Um, trying to remember the exact moment. It might have been 2016, but it might have not been till 2017. We were watching a YouTube video. I think it was YouTube from Unwrapped. Are you familiar with the Unwrapped
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
where they look at food and things? And they had a special Magic Kingdom edition of Unwrapped, and they were going in and talking about Mickey bars and how Mickey bars are made, and they had like all that super interesting insight. And I was like, you know what, this is really cool. I can see inside the Magic Kingdom, and it just brought all those feelings. The reason, the reason why people watch YouTube in the first place for Disney, you get to see inside a park that previously just lived in your memories,
Hmm.
or in still photos. And so just being able to see him walking around in the park, as bad as the graphics and resolution were back in those days. Um, and then so we tried to find other videos, and somehow I found my way to the Tim Tracker.
Hmm.
And he's probably the largest or second largest Disney YouTuber that there is. And I started following him quite a bit, watching his videos, and I was like, this is really cool. I would love to do this. Now, not as like a job. My mind was not thinking that far along yet, but I was just thinking, I have all these photos from our old trip, my anniversary with my wife, a couple of trips we took from college, and they're all just still photos. But I had a couple of video clips that I could take on my point and shoot camera. And there were probably like 2 video clips mixed in with all of these still photos as we go back through and look at our memories. And those clips, as terrible as they were, because I could hear the sounds and the music and the ambiance, it was like, these are so much more impactful for my memories than a still photo. So after watching a couple Tim Tracker videos, I bought my first little handy cam, and I took it in 2017 to our trip. And I filmed that entire trip, every single day, every single moment of the trip. And it's the first one that I have in my hard drive. I've got a hard drive with everything on it. Anything that I ever
Wow.
record goes on a hard drive so that I can refer back to it, get footage if I need to. And so that's the very first thing on my hard drive. And it is so bad. um, it is absolutely terrible. Advice to anyone who is interested in getting into YouTube: it's just to do it. Just do it. Just start. You are going to be bad. at the start. You are,
Right.
but it's part of getting comfortable being on camera, to talking to a camera, watching it back. Watching back your old footage is the best way to help you get better, because you'll be like, oh, did I really do that? And then you want to fix that for next time. And so yeah, I started all the way back in 2017. The channel didn't get started for a couple of years after that,
Right.
but that's just kind of the moment that I was like, hey, I really like videoing inside Walt Disney World for my memory's sake, anyway.
Right. So where you are at now with the growth of your channel, how do you prepare for a typical episode? Like, do you think through what you're going to do? Do you outline what your day in the park is going to look like, what you want your content to look like, or do you just go with the flow?
I am absolutely a planner. I have to be. Living in San Diego, I live an hour and a half away from Disneyland, and that's if there is absolutely no traffic. It can take up to 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes. We were coming back from Oogie Boogie Bash the other day, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, well, 12 o'clock in the morning-ish, and because it was so late, they had closed the entire I-5 freeway down to just one lane doing construction. And there was more traffic in the middle of the night than there was in the middle of rush hour. It took me 2.5 hours to get home. It's the longest it's ever taken me to get home. And so I didn't get back till 2:15 in the morning. But anyway, point being, I live so far away, I have to plan. I can't just go on a whim. You mentioned Fresh Baked earlier. He lives 20 minutes from Disneyland. If he forgets something or realizes he missed something, he just says, oh, I'm going to hop back to the park. He drives 20 minutes. He's there. It's like running to, well, at least for us anyway, it's like running to Costco or something
Right.
like that and back. It's a pretty quick, thing. But for me, it's a major ordeal to get up there. So I have to plan out my schedule. In fact, I just use pretty basic software. I use the calendar app on my MacBook Pro, and I just put events on all of the days that I have videos coming out. And I schedule like, okay, I'm going to put this video out on Monday. I'm going to put this video out on Wednesday. I'm going to put this video out on Thursday. And then I have a note on my phone that says, okay, I'm visiting the parks. Here's all of my reservations. I have the dates listed, and then I write underneath those dates what needs to be filmed on each visit in order to accomplish the calendar that I've already pre-planned out when these videos are going to be dropping. And I do try to consider things like alternating. You mentioned having a wide variety of content. Yeah, I do food reviews. We'll do like seasonal food. Like we're going to be going this weekend to try all of the new Halloween food at Disneyland, and so that's a food review, but it's more or less like a conglomeration of different things. Then I'll do other ones where, like, the most recent one we did was we had a reservation at the Naples restaurant in downtown Disney. So I'll do a full experience front to back about like check-in and the process of where you get seated, different seating options, and all of that sort of thing. So I've got like different types of content even within a smaller subset of videos, and I try to space those out. I don't want two food videos to go back to back, so I've got a food video, a hotel video, a crowd video, construction video, maybe a vlog. We alternate it so that nothing gets stale over the course of the month.
You mentioned Oogie Boogie. So you obviously went to the first night.
I did, yes.
So let me ask you this: as an influencer, content creator, is that important to you that you have to go like that first night because you want to get like that first look, or is that not as important to you? Is that something you plan on saying, I gotta go the first night?
That's great. That's a really great question. I'm about 50-50 on
Okay.
the desire to go the first night or not. When it comes to pure usefulness of my content, the first night is best because I am all about helping people plan vacations. Some people are just, they're vloggers to just showcase their day.
Correct.
And this is how, their life. And it doesn't matter to them when they go. But for me, my content is geared towards helping people prepare for coming. So the earlier I can get a video out, the more useful it is over the course of the life of the event. So I
Right.
try to always do like something like Oogie Boogie on the first night. I did Star Wars night on the first night. All of the and some of the after hours events aren't as useful. Like 90s night only has 2 nights. And,
Yeah.
by the time I'm putting a video out, is how many people is it helping? Not a whole lot. So that one really wouldn't matter per se. It's more or less like for next year, I guess, for, people that want to do that type of an event. But there is a philosophy also amongst YouTubers of I have to be first, I have to be first, I have to beat everybody else.
Right.
I used to feel that pressure to beat everybody else, but as the channel has grown, I've realized that it doesn't matter. My viewers are going to watch it anyway. And it used to be when I was smaller, and if I posted a video and then somebody like Ordinary Adventures came along and posted the same video, mine's instantly getting pushed down in the search results on YouTube. And so I'm getting less visibility as a result of that. But that's been a problem that hasn't really existed as the channel has grown. So I've been able to step back from that because really that mentality of having to be first puts a lot of stress on you.
Sure. Absolutely.
It makes it less fun, and once something becomes a chore to do, that's when you lose the joy and the love of it. And it's going to be a lot harder to do YouTube if you feel like it's, a task to be completed.
So I was even thinking as you were talking that it might be even a little bit more in your favor if you do, take a day or two, because then you get to see those people who did go out and do it the first time. And then you're like, okay, well, maybe I can try this differently. Maybe I can get the content in a different way. So it kind of is detrimental for them. And then you get this like advantage of now I can do it and I can plus it in a way that will be more beneficial for my fan base.
So you mentioned that, and I thought of immediately 2 things when you mentioned that. First off, I make it a habit of never, and this may sound bad, I guess, I don't know, but I make it a habit of never watching any of the other YouTubers' videos.
Okay.
I do that for a couple of reasons, but the primary reason is that I don't want to copy anybody.
Right.
I don't want to, like have watched a Fresh Baked video, and we cover a lot of the same stuff. Me, Fresh Baked, and Chris Provost with Provost Park Pass. I feel like we are the 3 YouTubers at Disneyland, more than any of the others, that really focus on the planning aspect and helping people prepare to come here on vacation. So naturally, we have a lot of similar content overlaps. And so I will specifically try not to watch Fresh Bake's videos or Chris's videos, because I don't want to like make half of my video just an echo of everything that David said, if that makes sense. The other side of what you mentioned, going in and seeing other people's mistakes, that's something else that I am not interested personally in doing. I don't know if it's a YouTube philosophy or just a personal preference, but like I have not been to Epic Universe yet, and I will refuse to watch any video about Epic Universe until I step foot in there myself. I want to experience it on my own and get that wonder and that joy of discovering things. I might make mistakes. Hey, I'm gonna make mistakes, probably. And I don't care, because I want it to be, hey, this is what you can expect when you're walking in here and you have no idea what you're doing.
That's
and that's
testimony to the authenticity of your content.
Yeah, that's kind of the perspective that I like to take.
I will say this. I watch all 3 of the people that you mentioned, Fresh Baked and Chris Provost, both amazing humans. I've met all of them in person. They're great. We've had them on here as well. But you're right. It's a lot of the same stuff, but you all wrap it so differently, which is so nice to see the same thing, but the same thing, but twisted it differently. Chris is jokingly and funny. David is just very strict, and I'm going to go do this, and I want to know how long does it take to get from here to here. You, like you said, I watched your Cambria video, and you like go through the whole process of what you do when you get there. It's like, you don't just say, oh, here's the hotel, here's the lobby, here's here, you want to park here, and you get these tickets and the keys, and just that stuff. You're very detail oriented. So you all are amazing at what you do. One question about the After Dark events real quick before we move on to the next, whatever topic. what's your favorite after dark event that you like to go to the most?
Personal preference, probably Star Wars night, just because it jives more with me personally and who I am.
Mhm.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I could sit down and watch all 9 movies back to back. Well, 11 actually, because I don't mind adding in the one-offs back to back to back in like a big movie marathon. I'm a lover of all things Star Wars. I'm not one of the I don't want to call them picky because I don't want to alienate anybody, but there's a subset of Star Wars fans that hate the sequels, the 7, 8, and 9, and I'm perfectly capable of just enjoying them for what they are. In fact, I think movie number 8, The Last Jedi, is probably one of my favorite ones, and it's the one that gets dumped on the most because of what they did to Luke Skywalker and things, and there's all sorts of, conversations we could have about the directors almost like fighting each other because they changed
Sure.
directors and completely undid everything that the previous one did and all that. But I don't know. I just found that the humor in The Last Jedi to be kind of like something that just resonated with me and I loved it. So I do love even the prequels. People hate on Jar Jar Binks and I love Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar's
Uh,
great. Come on.
so I love all the movies, and so I think Star Wars probably just jives the most with me as a result of that. In terms of which event do I think is the most well done, it's gonna be Oogie Boogie Bash. It's definitely the one that it's got an awesome parade. It's got Villains Grove, which is just phenomenal. Probably
Mhm.
my favorite part of the entire event. I love the interactions with the characters. Dr. Doofenshmirtz this past year was amazing. I just loved him. Hades, and just all the talking interactions that you can. And I mean, sure, Star Wars has those characters too, but they don't. It's like you just walk up and you're going to take a photo with them, and maybe Leia, makes a comment on your outfit or something. But Dr. Doofenshmirtz is going to shoot you with his fart gun or his stinkinator, I think he called it, or and it's just there's all sorts of fun aspects of Oogie Boogie that some of the other ones don't have. But I'll also add that my wife accompanied me to 2 of the after hours events this year, 90s Night and Sweethearts Night. And both of us just absolutely loved Sweethearts Night. We thought it was
Mhm.
great, something that we'd absolutely want to do again together. And so that was just a great event as well. I think they all have their selling points, if you know what I mean. And there's going to be people who like them all, but I think Star Wars is probably my favorite.
Okay. How about you, Sam? Anything else? Oh, we're not done. I'm just wanted. What did you want to touch on? Anything else?
Not yet. I mean, go right ahead.
No, right. You had said you live in San Diego, so and it's we were talking beforehand. We were talking about it says that you have passes to all these different Legoland and SeaWorld and did you say the zoo too or not? Does
The
the
zoo,
zoo
yeah.
have a pass?
It does, yeah.
You said you don't have all those anymore, and you go ahead and enlighten us of why.
Right, right. So I think the first annual pass that we probably picked up when we moved here probably was Disneyland. I'm trying to remember the timeline, but that was the first thing that we went for. And then after that, we picked up the zoo pass because I think a family pass back then for the entire year was like maybe $150. So it was pretty affordable for all 4. Well, was it 4? No, Benjamin was born here, so it was just me, Amy, and James when we first moved here. And we got the family pass, and it was just a great place to go just to walk around. We primarily use the zoo for exercise. If we want to go somewhere and just walk around the zoo, you could walk around that zoo for hours.
Yeah.
So we loved that. And then the greatest thing about that is if you have an annual pass to the San Diego Zoo, you also have access to the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. So it's 2 parks in one, and the Safari Park is bigger than the zoo. And so it's just really great to have both of those parks wrapped up into a single pass. It made it affordable for a young family getting started, and we went to those quite a lot. I think it was about 2019 we picked up a SeaWorld pass, and we started going there primarily because they have a splash zone in the center of their park. And it was, when the summers were getting really hot, we just wanted a place where we could take the kids and let them run through like a little water splash area and things. So that coupled with the animals, which we loved from the zoo, and the rides, which we loved from Disneyland, SeaWorld just seemed like the perfect sort of marriage between the zoo and Disneyland. So we liked that. And then I started YouTube. Well, actually, I put my first video on YouTube in November of 2019, and all it was just like data backup for these strips that I had told you about earlier. I was getting a lot of like my hard drive was filling up with space, and I needed to put them somewhere else that
Good place to
wasn't.
put it.
Yeah, so I just put it on YouTube, and nothing really happened back at that point. I maybe had like 3 or 4 videos on the channel by the time COVID hit, and then COVID shuts everything down. Everything changes with that, and once everything started opening back up in January of 2021, I picked it back up again. So we went to the zoo probably within like a week or 2 of it reopening to the public. And I just did what I had been doing, which is filming my time at the zoo with my family, and then I just put it up on YouTube as a place to save the memories, if you will. And people were just so interested in what the zoo was looking like with COVID protocols and masks and temperature checks and all that. What's different, what's closed, are there exhibits that are still closed? That video just started to do very, very well on the channel. In fact, my start to YouTube is probably one that can't really be replicated, simply because it was just a chance taking advantage of the times that we were in. Shortly after that, I did one at the safari park and then one at SeaWorld, and all 3 of those videos just sort of ballooned in people wanting to see what the parks were like with all those protocols. Well, the channel grew pretty quickly for a starting channel. Over the course of 6 months, we gained 1,000 subscribers. And some people, it takes them 5-6 years to even get to 100. So to get to 1,000 after 6 months, when we hit that mark, I said, you know what, I want to expand to a different theme park. So we got passes to Legoland. And so that's where all this story is connecting, to answering your question. That's when we picked up our Legoland passes. They had opened up Lego Movie World at the end of May of 2021. So I got a Legoland pass and created some content on Lego Movie World and our first experience there. And we had passes to all of those places that I just mentioned for several years. At some point along the way, I picked up a Universal pass. I don't remember when that was. But as the years have gone on, SeaWorld has been in decline the last couple of years. They've been really, really struggling. Quality, customer service, all of that has kind of gone downhill. So that led to us dropping our SeaWorld pass, because we just were frustrated every time we went there. The experiences, just trying to get food and waiting in a 2-hour-long line to get food that was cold and tasted bad and cost $25 for the same meal that Disney only charged $13 for. It just, we were seeing this steady decline, and so we said, you know what, we're done with SeaWorld. But we kept everything else until I think we just let our Legoland passes lapse in May, and that's because my kids are almost outgrowing it now. My oldest is 11 and my youngest is turning 8. And while they do have attractions that are, they meet that age range, they're also very familiar with Disney and the thrills of things like the Incredicoaster and Space Mountain and Legoland. The biggest ride that they have is equivalent to Goofy's Sky School at Disneyland. That's the biggest ride that they have. So it was just kind of like that outgrown Legoland. So that's why we let that pass lapse. We're thinking about picking up a Knott's Berry Farm pass. Just visited Knott's Berry Farm with Benjamin for the very first time about 2 months ago. And had a good time. So we're thinking maybe we might replace the Legoland pass with Knott's, but we haven't pulled the trigger on that yet.
Yeah, Knott's is cool. Like with that wooden roller coaster, what is the big old wooden roller coaster? I cannot think of what it's called right now.
That's Ghost Rider.
Rider. That thing's cool. I haven't been to Knott's in 20 years, but I remember it was just very, very cool place.
Pardon me.
No problem.
So you just brought up how your audience got developed, and how you had hit the boom at the right time. What surprised you the most about your audience, or surprises you currently?
That's an interesting question. Not really sure I have a particular answer for it. I guess just how it's developed over the years would be the most surprising thing. And how specific people are, I guess, would also be the right phrase for it. I've learned that we used to be a very multi-park channel covering all of these places. But as we have grown in the Disneyland sphere of things, we've discovered that most people are only really interested in Disneyland. And maybe if we were drawing a Venn diagram, there's a good chunk of overlap for people who are also interested in Universal. Of course, those two behemoths are always button heads in the theme park world. But we've noticed that people just aren't interested in SeaWorld and the zoo and places like that. At least my current audience isn't interested. Not that people aren't interested. I got my start with SeaWorld and the zoo. There's clearly plenty of interest. In fact, some of the largest videos on my channel are zoo videos, over 200,000 views on just one video about the San Diego Zoo. And then there are people that are interested in it. But as the audience changes and develops, it's probably more or less a commentary on how the YouTube algorithm works more than anything else. The YouTube algorithm says, I'm going to show your video to your subscribers, and we're just going to do a small test first to see how they like it. And so YouTube said, I make a San Diego Zoo video, and it gives it to 1,000 people. And those 1,000 people, even though I have 68,000 subscribers, and actually viewership is probably much higher than that, only about 30% of viewers are actually subscribed. So my viewership is probably somewhere in the ballpark of 200 to 250,000 people. It shows my videos to 1,000 people who primarily watch Disneyland content, and they say, oh, I don't care about the zoo. And so then YouTube says, well, these people don't like this video, so we're just going to lift up the rug, get the broom, and sweep that video under the rug and push it off to the side. Well, I'm sure that in those 250,000 people, there's probably a good 40,000 of them that probably would be interested in the zoo. But since the algorithm decided that it wasn't a good video, it doesn't show it to any of them. And so that video just doesn't perform well on the channel. So I've had to adapt the type of content that I've created over the years to not necessarily speak to the audience, but to speak to the algorithm.
That makes sense. It does. And that was kind of where I was trying to go with that question. Would you say that you've seen a change in the interaction with fans being more positive towards theme parks in general, or more critical towards theme parks in general in your comment section?
Well, when we used to go to SeaWorld a lot, I used to get a lot of negativity just from the SeaWorld haters out there. Of course, there's the whole Blackfish commentary. And I mean, SeaWorld has honestly changed a lot of their policies since the Blackfish documentary and everything that went on with that. So the SeaWorld that came under fire for their previous policies is not the SeaWorld of today. You could honestly potentially even look to those policy changes as being a part of the decline of SeaWorld, just because of the things that they've had to do. One of the shows, for instance, used to be really, really fun and entertaining, and now it's mostly just educational, and it was mainly because PETA was getting upset at them over different things, and I don't know all the backgrounds about it, but there's just a degradation of the enjoyment that because they have to jump through so many hoops to appease the different groups out there. And so what was the start of this question? I lost my train of thought.
Do you just as far as theme parks?
Negativity.
Parks,
negativity.
Are they more critical or positive towards the content? Your content, obviously, they love watching it. But I mean, the theme parks you're representing in your videos.
So, of course, there were a lot of people with SeaWorld specifically that would post hate comments. And it was funny because my wife and I would frequently remark to each other, if they hate SeaWorld so much, why are they watching a SeaWorld video? And we're like, well, they're probably not watching it. I think somebody just is like such a crusader against SeaWorld that they would just Google every single day and see if any new SeaWorld videos have been posted and then just go blast hate comments on all those new videos. And it was really perplexing to us that people had the time and the focus to go, put hate comments on content that they didn't even, like, I know they weren't watching it. There's no way they're watching it if they hate SeaWorld. So, but in terms of negativity about other theme parks, I haven't really gotten any. Nobody's there's the recurring narrative with Disneyland. It's too expensive. They're pushing people out. There's some negative comments on my food videos regarding things like people, and everybody has different opinions. So of course they're entitled to their opinion, but there's a lot of people that think that Disneyland food is terrible, and they would rather eat outside the park, and maybe that's the case. I happen to like Disneyland food. Sure, there's bad Disneyland food as well as good Disneyland food. Like a frequent topic of discussion on my channel is how much I hate the chicken tenders and burgers at Disneyland. I feel like they're the most uninspired items that they have, but they're on menus because they're comfort foods for most people. Yep. And I think there's so much better food at Disneyland than that. So I get comments about things like that, the cost and the food, but not people necessarily hating on Disneyland itself. And then I get negative comments as I start to grow about me as a person and things like that. But you just kind of have to tune that sort of stuff out.
Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
Sounds like maybe we don't want to grow.
No, but I guess that's just comes with the territory.
It comes with the territory.
But
yeah, sorry, Shawn. I was going to say, we get to see both sides of it in our interaction with our listeners for the podcast, and we do have people who are critical of the things that Disney is currently doing and the way Disney currently does things, but we also have the other side where it is more positive and they're like, I love the direction Disney's going. So I was just curious that if you were seeing the same thing where people will see something and be like, they could have done that a lot better. So thank you for answering that.
I would say that I'm pretty upbeat and positive. I say this all the time, but
you are for sure.
What you see on the camera is what you get in real life. We try to keep it pretty real. We don't do anything fake. So if I have something negative to say, it cues to my audience to pay attention because I'm not being overly like my channel isn't founded around negativity. So if I'm saying something negative, it's really got to be bad for me to mention it. Because like I said, I like to try to keep things positive. And so since my channel is mostly a positive and upbeat place, I would say that the large majority of the comments and the thoughts around Disney's direction are also largely positive and upbeat. You do get the detractors and I'll have discourse with them. I don't mind whatsoever. Like, for instance, there's a lot of people that are 50-50 on the whole Avatar expansion. Mm-hmm. I personally think it's great. I love it. One of my favorite lands at Animal Kingdom is Pandora. The first time that I ever walked into Pandora at Animal Kingdom, I was just awestruck. And I'm super excited to get something like that here in California. There's people upset that Monsters, Inc. has to disappear as a result of that. And then there's other people that say, well, Monsters, Inc. wasn't even that great of a ride anyway. It's a reskin of the worst ride in Disney history.
Yes, it is.
And so it wasn't even all that great anyway. And I told my aunt and my uncle were visiting from Indiana this weekend, and we went to the parks. Actually, the first time I went to the parks in years and didn't film any. Well, I can't say I didn't film anything. I filmed an Oogie Boogie Bash video and I filmed a merchandise update that'll be coming later on the channel when everybody else was back at the pool just enjoying, the hotel and things. But like normally I vlog my day or we're vlogging a good chunk of what we're doing in the park. I didn't turn the camera on the entire time that I was riding rides with my aunt and uncle. So it was just great. It was great just to be able to have some fun time with them. Even when we go on vacation to Walt Disney World or Aulani, you said you wanted to bring that up later.
Absolutely.
We can get onto that later, of course. But I mean, when I go on vacation, I'm filming every single moment of it. It's still work while I'm on vacation. So this was great just to be able to chill and spend some time with them. But I was explaining to my uncle what they have to do for this expansion and how they're tearing out the different bus terminals and they're pushing the entrance over, and my mother was hearing me explain that. She's like, wow, that's a lot of work. And they're gonna completely shifting everything to make way for this Avatar expansion. So yeah, Disneyland's gonna kind of look terrible for a while. There's gonna
Yeah.
be construction walls up, and nobody likes going to Disneyland. Or I remember going to Magic Kingdom when they were doing some construction a couple years back, and there were so many cranes everywhere. We called it Magic Cranedom because the cranes were just everywhere. And it really does. It kind of takes away from that magic when you're looking at cranes and things. But I think of it as a good thing because, as Walt said, Disneyland will never be completed, and I like seeing expansions. I like seeing
Absolutely.
that they're doing stuff. In fact, mentioning all those other theme parks, one of the things that I have come to not really like enjoy about places like the zoo, SeaWorld, Legoland, and yeah, they do some things, but they don't really they don't go to the level that Disneyland does whenever they're creating new stuff, and how creative they're getting and like filling the spaces and whatnot. So yeah, the Disneyland definitely changes far more frequently than any of the other theme parks do.
You said go to work. This is your job, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
This is my
This is your
full-time job.
100% full-time job. I thought you'd said that when we were chatting, but that's
Yeah.
great. One more question about Disney, then we'll move on to I do want to talk about Alani, but so you create food videos, you create park updates, construction kind of stuff. Can you tell, like, by looking at your videos what the fans want to see the most of? Can you tell if they want to see more food stuff or they want to see just your day? Do you know what they like to see the most?
Absolutely, yes. So as our video is mostly about, our channel is mostly about helping people plan vacations, the videos that are very planning centric do the best. So we're talking about construction updates, seasonal food videos, tips for different seasons. Every season, we get into a different season. Like coming up, I'll probably do a fall tips video, and just the things that you could look out for during the fall season. Those types of videos, anything that really helps people when they're about to visit. Those videos are the ones that perform the best on the channel. And then there are videos that, while they don't necessarily perform very well, they do decent enough that they're worth doing, and they're good for long-term content. And that's like my restaurant reviews. Going to, like, right now I'm going through all the Downtown Disney restaurants. I almost never eat at Downtown Disney. We almost just eat inside the park exclusively. But I also put together big food guides at the beginning of the year, and I did Downtown Disney for the first time this year, and I just was shocked at how little content I had about Downtown Disney. So I said this year I'm going to change that. I'm going to go and we're going to go through all the restaurants in Downtown Disney. And those videos don't really do all that well overall, but they're still helpful. Especially as I get to putting the food guide together next year, that is absolutely will be a really good video that people like to watch. So yeah, I can definitely tell. The vlogs, you mentioned vlogs. I don't do daily vlog type things all that much anymore. We used to just have videos that I would put together where we're at Disneyland. I'm just going to film from rope drop to the moment that I leave the park, and it's just going to be a 55-minute video of us doing whatever. Those videos don't do all that well anymore. I have to put a topic on. If I want to do that type of video, I have to have a topic, and so it's usually something like Lightning Lane,
Right.
the best use of Lightning Lane, how to maximize Lightning Lane, or I might do a every single ride at DCA in one day video, or I might do a everything that you can do at Disney California Adventure that's not a ride. And so I can still do vlogs, but they have to have themes. If they don't have a
Gotcha.
theme like that, then mostly people don't particularly care. Our channel, and I know there are a lot of channels out there that can do this, but our channel does not survive on just the daily life vlogging. Like perfect example, another one of my favorite YouTubers is Paging Mr. Morrow, Nate, and Walt Disney World, and that's what he does. He goes to the park. Hey friends, and we're gonna go have a meal at this place, and we're gonna ride some rides, and then we're gonna call it a day. And that's what he does. And it works for him. Every single
Right.
video is the same format, And that's what his audience likes. And he's got like 300,000 subscribers. When I started following him, he had maybe 50,000, and his growth was pretty slow at the start, but then somewhere around the 100,000 mark, he just kind of ballooned. And he's been doing really well for himself. And he just gets to vlog his life. In fact, that's the best type of, from a creator perspective, that
Mhm.
is the best type of content to be able to do, because he doesn't have to plan, he doesn't have to think, he doesn't have to look ahead. He just gets to go eat some food, ride some rides, and have some fun. And so I do look up to him for that. I wish that that people cared a bit more about our just vlog type videos, but that's just not the way our channel is built. And so we work around it. We understand understand how you're talking about the audiences. You mentioned
Sure.
that earlier too.
I will say one of my favorite videos that I've watched I think I watched it when I was coming back from when we were at Universal Studios. I was driving back home. I was watching it, and you did like every ride in the park like in one day with the family, and it was just
Yeah.
great watching you try to get it all done, and just like
Yeah.
you had this and that, and you can definitely tell you're a planner. You're like me. I'm like, you gotta do this, that. Ask Sam. I'm like, you gotta check this off the box as we go. That's one of my favorite videos. It's so much fun to watch the whole family get involved in that. But I do want to dive into Alani, and then we're going to come back, and I have some favorites in the parks I want to talk about at the end of just our favorite things. So I've never been to Alani. Sam, you've never been to Alani. Tell us about it. It looks cool. Is it
Uh,
worth it?
it's paradise. It really is. That's it in a nutshell. Every time I step through the front doors, it just hits me. Just the wave of emotion, like, wow, this is so beautiful. I'm here. It's great. And then, uh, we can talk about this too if you want a little bit later, but post Disney depression is a real thing. The Disney blues, as some people might call it. You go on a Disney vacation, and that last day, or as you're walking out of the park, it just you feel so down, and then you
Oh
get
yeah.
home, and all you're doing is you're thinking about it the entire time that you're gone. I don't really get that anymore, just because I'm up there every week, so I know if I'm missing something, I'll just get it next week. I'm sure most locals could probably echo that same sort of thought. And even Disney World, I used to get that at Disney World. Sometimes I still go through like that feeling of, oh, I wish I could be there. But um, just because I have Disneyland at the ready, I don't experience that, even all that much either. However, Aulani, that's where it hits me. That's where I get those feelings. I always get a room that faces the center courtyard area. It's more expensive, like $200 to $300 a night more expensive. But to me, if I'm gonna go all the way out there, no way I'm looking at a parking lot. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I get it if that's what you got to do and that's all you can afford. Absolutely, it's better just to go to be able to afford it. But if you can get a view that faces the center courtyard, I could stand on my balcony all day. I could just stand there and stare out. I don't even have to go anywhere or do anything. The music, the sounds, the ambiance, the view, everything about it just makes me love being there. And this most recent trip, I actually took my camera, I set it on a tripod, pointed it out on that view, and then I just let it run for like 15 minutes. Because if I ever feel like I need that again, I'm going to pull that video up, that
Absolutely.
ambiance, and I'm just going to put it on the TV in the background, and then I've got that sounds. I feel like I'm there again. There's something about it, especially if you're so used to the busyness of a Disneyland or Walt Disney World vacation. Aulani just lets you get all the things about Disney that you love, like the food and the characters and that special Disney magic from the cast members, without the rush and the hustle and the bustle of like having 100,000 people squeezing into this little pathway that you're all trying to go. And then you saw that a ride was 10 minutes, and by the time you get over there, it's 50, and now you feel like you walked across the park for nothing. Like, all those stresses, and going to Disney is stressful. Especially if it's hot, and then people get short-tempered, and you can easily ruin a day just by being grumpy at Disney. But you don't get any of that when you're at Aulani, just because of how chill and relaxed it is. Yet you still get that Disney dose.
Sam, you have any questions about Aulani?
No, but I want to go. It sounds like
I know, right?
next teacher vacation that I need.
Traver, let me ask you. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's actually great to hear, because I avoid planning trips to Disney strictly because like the times that I can go are when everyone else can go, because I'm a teacher, and it's just chaos. So maybe I need an Aulani trip.
To that point, we were dreading is the wrong word, but I guess apprehensive about our most recent trip. The last time that we went, so my kids' school schedule got shifted this year. And instead of getting out the week before Labor Day, 2 weeks before Labor Day, now they got out just the Wednesday, not Labor Day, Memorial Day. And now they got out just the Wednesday before Memorial Day. And so we almost always go right away to try to beat out, the crowds and things for kids getting off of school and whatnot. But we were worried that because we had to go over Memorial Day, that it was just going to be insane. It was going to be too crowded. It was going to be frustrating. We weren't going to enjoy it as much. And Monday, actual Memorial Day itself, it was busy. But it was mostly locals. In fact, we met so many people there who watched our content, and they said that they're just there because they're on vacation there. They don't have work and that sort of thing. Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day, it looked like you weren't even anywhere near a holiday. So I don't know. I can't speak to what it is like during the heart of summer, but going over what I would consider a busy time, it was still just as relaxing as we were wanting, and it was great.
That's awesome. Hey, Traver, can you think of anyone that can maybe help you plan a trip to Aulani?
Well, of course, there's Getaway Today, my favorite Disneyland and Walt Disney World, and of course Aulani as well. Vacation planners, they are fantastic. They are the best.
They are the best. I think we switch back to the parks, because I have some like rapid fire questions. And Sam, if you have something you want to throw in here, I want to know. I have some questions for you. First off, since you started off your Disney journey in Walt Disney World, what do you like better, Walt Disney World or Disneyland?
Well, I have a video about why Disneyland is better than Walt Disney World.
Just because it is. I mean, that's why.
Should probably say Disneyland. To be fair, I mean, if I'm being completely upfront, I love both equally. They're so different, and there's no way that I could rank one over the other. But I mean, the reason why I made a video about Disneyland being better than Disney World is because when you stack them up next to each other and you start doing comparisons, they have a lot of the same things, but Disneyland is mostly superior in just about every category with the exception of size. Walt Disney World is going to own the market on size, and Disneyland will never be able to compete with them. 4 theme parks, 20 plus hotels, thousands of acres of space that they can do whatever they want with, multiple mini golf courses, and
permission
all that
for
sort
a
of thing.
5th, 6th, and possibly 7th gate in the next 15 to 20 years.
Yeah. There's so much. There's no way that Disneyland can compete in the size of things. But as the parks currently stand, I always tell people there's more rides between Disneyland and DCA than there are between all 4 Walt Disney World parks. A lot of people don't realize that a park like Animal Kingdom only has 6 rides. And
Really?
there's not a lot. There's not a lot there. And Disneyland's got 34 rides, and DCA has 18 rides. So I think the biggest Walt Disney World park is Magic Kingdom, and that has maybe 20 something. But Epcot's got maybe 13, and I think Hollywood Studios has 13, and I think Epcot has 11. I don't remember the exact numbers, but Disneyland has way more rides than they do. The rides that we do have here that are the same are superior in just about every way, except for Jungle Cruise, maybe. I love the Mayan temple scene that Disney World has in their Jungle Cruise. But our Space Mountain has got music. Our Pirates of the Caribbean's got 2 drops and is like a full 5 minutes longer. You've got Indiana Jones, which is the superior version of their dinosaur ride. We've got Radiator Springs Racers, which is the superior version of their test track ride. All that sort of stuff. I think Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout is the superior version of Tower of Terror as well. Probably I might be in the minority on that. I don't know, but I do think that we have the better versions of just about all the rides. Our food is significantly better. Most people are in agreement there. I don't think anybody would argue that Disneyland has better food. And so and of course you can't discount it. We're in Walt's apartment right now talking, right? You've got the park where Walt stepped and where Walt walked, and you've got Walt's apartment right there that you can look at and see when you walk in the park. So there's so much history at Disneyland as well, that can't be discounted for the big Disney buff.
See, Sam, this is why you really have to come. Sam's never been to Disneyland, so
Oh.
no, I live in the Midwest, so I've not been, but I'm going to make it this year. I told everybody I would before the end of the year. So
you mentioned Walt's apartment.
I was saying he mentioned Indiana earlier. Apparently, that's where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned Walt's apartment. It is the coolest place in Disneyland. It's the most inspiring place I've ever been. Honestly, it's so cool. But
I am gonna give you a confession. I have actually not been inside the apartment yet. No.
Oh, I had a friend for my 50th birthday get me in there, and it was just the coolest thing to just stand there. You're standing at the lamp, which is just the weirdest thing ever. And the lady's like, if you look out there, that's the same view Walt had the day the park opened, as he stood there with tears running down his face, and just like, holy shit, you can't just see, but it's just, and then the little beds that the couches fold out into beds, and it's just so small, and it's just like, wow, it's the craziest thing ever. So you mentioned hotels. What besides Disneyland Resort, what hotel would you recommend to anyone coming to stay at Disneyland? What hotel would you recommend?
Well, I'm apologize to Getaway Today right off the bat, but my favorite hotel is the Candy Cane Inn, which is a little independent hotel that doesn't work with anybody. It's not on Expedia. You're not going to find it on anything like that, because they just sell direct through their own website. They're family owned and operated and all of that. And I would love it if the Candy Cane Inn would partner with Getaway Today, and I could start pushing them a little bit more. But the Candy Cane is probably my favorite hotel that I've stayed there. I don't know how many times, 5, 6 times. I've stayed in a lot of hotels, and I've seen several more thanks to the Getaway Today tours. My second favorite hotel that I've stayed at so far is the Cambria that you mentioned earlier. In fact, I titled that video, "Is the Cambria my new favorite hotel?" Of course, titles sometimes are just buzzwords to try to get people to click in. So did the Cambria actually dethrone the Candy Cane? No, it didn't, but it runs a pretty close second. My kids loved the water park aspect of it.
It looked like so much fun. We were there, and when we toured it, I'm like, this place is amazing. I'd love to come here.
Yeah, the room itself was just so great. Everything about the hotel was wonderful, except for, and this is probably where, there's 2 aspects of why Cambria doesn't quite rank up to Candy Cane. The first is its proximity to the parks. It's a 25-minute walk if you're walking it. You can take the art bus, but then of course you have to pay, or you can walk to the Toy Story lot and you can take the free Disney shuttles, but that's a 10-minute walk as well. Candy Cane is so close that if you wanted to walk it, you could do it in about 5 to 7 minutes. And if you didn't want to walk it, even though they're that close, they actually have a free shuttle that goes back and forth to the park. So it'll take you and drop you off right there at security. And, it's a free shuttle that Candy Cane supplies. So that's just a huge plus for them. And then their breakfast at the Candy Cane was just phenomenal. I've never had a hotel breakfast quite as involved as the Candy Canes. And while the Cambria certainly had more choices, it didn't measure up in my eyes, as far as the actual food quality. But aside from those two things, the Cambria is probably my favorite hotel of any of the ones that I've stayed in that's on Getaway Today's
Okay.
portfolio. If I think that's the
Yeah,
right word
sure.
I'm looking for.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we know that there are a lot of things that Disney has greenlit that are coming to the parks, be it the Walt Disney World, internationally, Disneyland. If there was one thing that has been announced that you could walk into tomorrow morning by yourself and be the first person to experience it, it's done, it's complete, it's ready for you, which project would you pick?
Oh, that's a
Wow.
really good
That's
question.
a really good question. Damn.
Just for anyone who is listening who isn't in the know, things just off the top of my head that are big projects that are coming up. We've got the Avengers Campus expansion. We have the Avatar area that's being built there in Hollywoodland and Disneyland. There's the Coco ride, but that's not a whole land. I'm going to stick to mostly lands, I think. We have the Cars land that'll be coming to Magic Kingdom over the rivers of America. We've got the Monsters Inc. area that will be coming. We've got villains that are coming. So many big lands have been announced to narrow that down to just one. I mean, I guess the one that I'm most excited for as a Disneyland person is still Avatar.
Yeah.
Because I love Avatar so much. I mentioned that earlier, Pandora. And here's the thing though, okay? Unless Joe Rohde comes out of retirement, I am gonna hold my opinion on Avatar until I see it, because anything that man touches is gold.
Oh God, yes.
I love Joe Rohde, and the saddest day in Disney history was when he retired, because that man is just I can't. He created Aulani too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I love Pandora. I told you I love Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. I loved Aulani. I mean, everything that man has touched is probably one of my favorite parts of Disney. And so, yeah, I mean, I really hope that they pull him out of retirement, at least for consulting, some sort of role. If they don't, that's a huge misstep on Disney's part.
I entirely agree.
Absolutely. Disneyland and DCA, what's your favorite ride in each park?
Disneyland, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna be the person that you ask that question to, and they just give you the most popular ride, because it is for me both Rise of the Resistance and Radiator Springs Racers. The rides that they're on individual lightning lane for a reason. And they are the two most popular rides in the park. I think I put them head to head once, and people prefer Radiator Springs Racers to Rise of the Resistance. I would put Rise over Radiator, but again, we've already established I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
Star Wars,
so.
Absolutely. Okay. How about food? Each park.
Cheesy garlic pretzel bread, hands down for me at Disneyland. That's the one that you'll hear me talk about the most often. It's probably the one that I've ordered the most often. I've tried every variation that they've come out with.
That's the one that's at Edelweiss Snacks?
They have one there, but the primary location for it before it popped up there was Maurice's Treats next to the Beauty and the Beast and Tangled Theater. They have a breakfast one there right now that has sausage built into it. I'm a little tossed on the Disney's handcrafted like extras because they charge like $5 or $6 extra for the insert meat that goes in the item, and I think it's plenty filling without it. But the cheesy garlic pretzel bread and every variety of it, be it ones that Disney has created or ones that fans have created. In fact, my favorite thing to do is go to Bengal Barbecue and buy a Bengal beef skewer, pull the meat off, and stick that in a cheesy garlic pretzel bread.
Oh my God,
man, that is the best way to have that thing.
That's Amazing.
It's very good. So yeah, easily cheesy garlic pretzel bread, my favorite thing at Disneyland. Disney California Adventure, gotta be something from Pim Test Kitchen. Hard to pick just one thing, but maybe I'm currently on the pepper particle pasta. It's a nice little spicy pasta that gives you a little kick, and I love spicy foods. In fact, that's one thing that I love about Disneyland that Disney World will just never be able to measure up to. Disneyland knows how to do spice. Disney World doesn't do anything spicy, really, and I think there's a reason for that. It's probably just because Disney World is more of a melting pot, where you've got people from all over the world coming to Disney World, and I feel like Disneyland mostly caters to locals, and then you've got occasional and by locals, I'm including people like Arizona and Nevada and things in that. But you'll occasionally get Japanese and Australians that will come and visit as well, but not to the extent that people make a pilgrimage from all over the world to go visit Walt Disney World. And when you have that many people coming, you do have to create a menu that perhaps is a bit more bland to be approving of so many different tastes and palates. And I also think that that's probably why Disney World food isn't as good as Disneyland food, just because they do have to create like I said, something that would be more accepted by a
Sure.
large variety of people groups. But Disneyland knows how to do spice, and the pepper particle pasta is probably my current favorite thing to eat at DCA.
Okay, I have a couple more questions. Sam, do you have any questions you want to ask?
I'll just throw one more in there because I know we're running out on time. But rope drop or kiss goodnight?
Rope drop, but that's just because I live in San Diego.
He doesn't want to drive home.
Yeah. If I didn't have to drive back and get home at 2:00 in the morning, I'd probably go kiss goodnight because I'm a night person. I hate mornings. In fact, you know, I always show up at Disney for rope drop every single time that I go, and that's just because, again, I live in San Diego, and if I do not beat the traffic, it will take me forever to get there. So I have to get there, and I hate waking up at 5 in the morning to get up to Disney by rope drop. I just do. It's probably my least favorite thing about going to Disney is the waking up. And once I'm there, everything is great. People ask me all the time, "Don't you get tired of Disneyland?" No, I don't.
Right.
Plot me on a park bench, and I'm
absolutely.
Content. I'm content. Okay, I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to ride anything. Just plot me on a park bench and let me people watch and listen to the ambiance and the music that's playing like along Main Street or in the hub, and I'm a happy camper. So no, Disneyland doesn't get old. Do I hate driving up there? Absolutely, I hate driving up there. Would I ever move closer? Not until the kids are out of school. Life is just so established here. They're friends and everything like that at school. So there's no way that I'm moving anytime soon. And we just gotta, Chris Provost understands that. He makes the trek all the way from Utah. And so, I know he's in the park I feel like about once a month. I think he makes it here. And so he obviously has a much bigger commute than I do, but I hate waking up early. So I'm a night person. I'm usually up probably to 1 a.m. most days if I don't have to go to Disney the next day. So kiss goodnight would definitely fit better with my own personal habits.
Gotcha. Two more questions. This next one here, you're taking your family or some friends to Disneyland. You're not going to film. You're going to walk in. Are you going to take them left, right, or straight to start your day?
Right. I almost always go to Space Mountain.
Okay.
That's my go-to. In fact, I did it with my aunt and my uncle this weekend. And we were initially going to go do Alice in Wonderland first. So we were going to go straight because, of course, we had Lightning Lane.
Sure.
And they're only there for 2 days. They'd never been to Disneyland before ever, and I've got to maximize my time. So we're doing 1 day in each park. Disneyland on Saturday, DCA on Sunday, and I'll even explain that for anybody watching who's interested. I picked Disneyland on Saturday which you would think would probably end up being the busier day for Disneyland, just being Saturday being one of the more popular days of the week. But Sunday was Oogie Boogie Bash, the first day of Oogie Boogie Bash. And anytime there is an after hours event, you're going to get kicked out of the park a little early.
Yeah.
And so DCA closed at 6 p.m. And anybody who is there on a one-day ticket is not going to want to be done at 6 p.m. in the evening, and they don't have a park hopper, so they're going to pick Disneyland on Sunday. And so Disneyland was significantly more crowded on Sunday than it was on Saturday. So we had a great time on Saturday. But you said, well, didn't you just say you did DCA on Sunday? That means you're going to get kicked out at 6 p.m., right? It is. But the mornings on Oogie Boogie Bash days are dead in DCA, empty, because everyone's over at Disneyland.
Right.
So we had more than enough time to get what we needed to do done at DCA. And so that's what we did this weekend. But anyway, had Lightning Lane to maximize the time. And I was going to grab Indiana Jones first thing. That's usually what I do. That's my habit. Grab an Indiana Jones Lightning Lane. And then I was just going to go ride all the rides that don't have Lightning Lanes. So most of those are in Fantasyland. So, of course, we're going to go up there. They didn't care about Peter Pan. They'd been to Disney World how many times? And they have Peter Pan. So they didn't care about Peter Pan. But so we're going to go to Alice first. But for some reason, Indiana Jones was having a delayed start that morning. Never really seen that. And in all the time that I've gone, I don't really see Indiana Jones having a delayed start, but they did. For whatever reason, they had a delayed start this morning, and they weren't giving out Lightning Lanes while it was closed. So I couldn't grab a Lightning Lane for it first thing in the morning like I had planned. So I instead, my backup, if I can't grab Indiana Jones, is Space Mountain. Because there's usually, if you are at the very, very back of the rope drop crowd going to Space Mountain in the morning, it's probably about a 15 to 20 minute wait. And that's not terrible. In fact, it's really good. I mean, you're in the back of the line, and 15 minutes, 20 minutes is the worst you got to wait. So it's a rope drop destination for me for sure, even if I don't have Lightning Lane. But it's probably one of the best rides for using a Lightning Lane first, because if you were to use it on Autopia, how many people are you skipping at 8:02 in the morning? Like none. But you get to skip 20 minutes worth of line at Space Mountain. So that was my first grab, was Space Mountain. And it was for 8:05, so we can check in 5 minutes early. So, of course, we just went straight there. Went straight to Space Mountain. My uncle thought it was the greatest thing. We were just walking by all these people. All these the line is like all the way out to Star Trader, because you got that big bottleneck where people. The line wasn't that long. But because you have people 6 wide trying to squeeze down into a lane with 2 people can fit, there's a bottleneck. So the line's all the way back to Star Trader, and we're just walking right by all of them because we're going to the Lightning Lane. So he thought that was great. But yeah, Space Mountain is definitely one of my go-tos in the morning. As soon as we got scanned into Space Mountain, the Lightning Lane for Indiana Jones had opened up, so I grabbed it. There you go. That's what we did after that.
Perfect. Last question. Someone asks you, Trevor, what is your ultimate Disney influencer, Disney YouTuber pro tip for Disneyland? What's the ultimate tip you could give someone to have the best day?
To have the best day, my favorite is pack your patience.
That's a good one.
Your Disneyland vacation is what you make of it. And if you go in there with this mentality of, everything is just going to be open and empty and breezy, and it's going to be great, and we're going to walk on everything, and then you get there and you find that the reality is not so peachy keen, it can be real easy, as I mentioned earlier, for you to just kind of take on a bad attitude. And when you take on a bad attitude, it infects everybody else in your party. Yep. And when everyone has a bad attitude, you're yelling at each other. I'm sure if you've gone to Disneyland enough, you've probably seen someone yelling at somebody, be it a cast member or their own family members. You've probably seen some yelling going on. And I think the best way to have the best vacation is to just take a deep breath, take a moment, let it cool down, and just say, you know what? we're going to make the most of what we can, and I'm going to be happy about it no matter what. And we're just going to, if you have a good attitude, you're going to have a great time. If you have a bad attitude, nothing in the world can fix it. You're just gonna have a terrible time, and everyone's gonna remember. Everybody in your family is gonna remember that was the worst vacation we ever had. And I think most people would admit to themselves they don't want their family to feel that way. So I think it's best just to approach the parks from a we have a plan, but it's okay if things don't go according to plan.
100%.
And be able to pivot, just to be able to be flexible. I think being flexible is probably the most important factor.
That's perfect. This was amazing. This was exactly what I was hoping it would be. I can't thank you enough for this, Sam. Thank you for taking the time to be with us in Indiana. I appreciate that. Traver, where can we find you? I'm sure they already know, but I mean, where can we find you?
I am 98% YouTube. That is mostly where you can find me. We have an Instagram. We don't use Instagram. The only reason, I mean, we use it occasionally. I might post a photo once every 3 or 4 months. But
it took me a while to find a picture of you to post for Instagram. I'm like looking through all these pictures, like, where's the picture of him?
The primary reason we have Instagram is so people can contact us. I have my email posted on my YouTube channel, so you're always welcome to email me as well. But Instagram is just more, I guess, friendly, user friendly for people. They like using Messenger as opposed to email. So Instagram exists simply for messages, and my wife handles all of the messages, as you found out, Shawn.
Yes, she does.
She handles all of the messages. I don't touch Instagram. She will say, oh, hey, Shawn reached out and wants to know about that podcast. Are you still interested? And I was like, oh yeah, tell him I'm interested and figure out what dates he wants. And then she was like, well, he says this, and it's like, you know what? Let's just cut the middleman out. Tell him
I'm just going to give you his email address. She said.
Tell him to email me. But Amy gets all sorts of questions on Instagram, and she answers all of those. I answer the email. She answers the Instagram. And we both do 50-50 on responding to YouTube comments. Of course, it all looks like me. Right. Everything looks like me. Instagram looks like me. YouTube looks like me because we're all logged into my account. But, if it's Instagram, it's her. If it's YouTube, it's probably me more than it is her, but there are plenty of times where I do ask her, hey, can you respond to this question? I don't have time right now. Or she will just respond to them, if she sees something that she can answer, she'll just respond anyway. So, well, we are very active on our YouTube comments section. If you ask a question, I will do my best to answer them. I can't promise that I will always see them. The way that, again, YouTube works, I can't promise that every single comment I see, but I try to make sure I keep on top of those. I definitely will answer your email and Instagram. Again, I don't have any stock in what goes on Instagram. That's all on Amy, but she's pretty good about it. Pretty good about responding too.
Well, perfect. I appreciate all of this. Again, thank you, Sam, for joining us. Traver, thank you for taking the time. I'm glad we finally were able to do this. Just thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. If you're not following So Cal Disneydad, why? Just do it. It's amazing, awesome content that is always informative and gives you everything you need to know to especially love Disneyland. But I appreciate you so much. Hang out after for a second. I'm going to ask you a question when we're done. But that's it for this week of Walt's Apartment Presents. And until next time, we hope you enjoy the view from Walt's Apartment. Good night, everyone.
come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here age relives fond memories of the past, and here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.